Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, an unprecedented program. The title of this episode this evening, Born an American in a Chinese Person's Body. Chen, the author of 1 in a Billion, Journey Toward Freedom. Chen, you were born in Beijing, but you were an American in a Chinese person's body.
Correct.
What happened?
Well, I never realized before. I thought, I had an expression. I said, I was born Chinese, and then I chose to be American. Later on, I thought, oh, that expression is not right. I was born American because I was born free. The only thing is, I was born in the wrong place.
Okay.
The wrong place is I was born in a despotic country,
right.
with tyranny reigns. So I realized I am free because I'm not created by my environment, by my culture, by the land, by the language. I'm created by Almighty. So I realized, in that sense, I was born already American because being American means being free. Then I changed it. I said, I was born American, only born in the wrong place. That's about it.
So you weren't born in the wrong body or even in the wrong nationality or ethnicity. You're just born in the wrong place, which happened to be China,
right.
Communist China.
Right.
Kai, your family suffered quite a bit under the Cultural Revolution, maybe even before. Just give us a little bit of your family background and why you were persecuted by the communist authorities.
My parents were exiled in 1960 because they were old members in the Kuomintang government because they worked in the customs of the old government. But when the communist communist regime took over, they used the old members because they didn't know how to run the government. They used them till they found out a way to handle it themselves. Then they exiled these people. Because I have so many relatives in Taiwan serving in the Taiwan military. One even served, under the CIA, and even went to, on reconnaissance missions to China. But these, it's funny, because of this, we are exiled. We were exiled to Manchuria. The whole family from Beijing. I was born in Beijing, and my parents worked in Beijing. But later on, because of my relatives in Taiwan, we were not entirely destroyed by the Red Guards, because the Chinese government thinks they can use us. They can use us to make propaganda to the Taiwan people. You see, then they didn't entirely destroy us, but they used us to shoot photos, write letters, to tell the Taiwan relatives to see how happy we were in the mainland.
I see.
Okay.
Let's skip ahead a little bit to you being recruited to the national basketball team. Now, did this come, but I also want to talk about how you were forced to engage in self-denunciation sessions as well. So tell us a little bit about those two themes in terms of the timing chart.
Timing, I was born in 1953. Mm-hmm. Then by the time Cultural Revolution started, in 1966. Mm-hmm. So I was about to graduate from middle school. Mm-hmm. But that's, the age.
Yes.
That's where Mao's main force is, that because they use the young people. They use, Red Guards to overthrow whatever, the old, so-called old forces in China. So, but we were already, persecuted and exiled to Manchuria.
We could just give us, but why I also said maybe even during your basketball career and after, because you also ran into problems with the authorities during that time.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I meant that. But just give us an example of a self-denunciation session where the communists didn't like you being an individual.
Just as I said, I was born American. So the entire society in China never accepted me. They never accept me mentally, physically, spiritually, Because, I stand up about 6'7", and who's going to accept me?
Right.
In China,
And also you
it's
were
a
always an
conformist.
individual. You never wanted to conform.
Exactly. In a conformist society, if you stand out, you're going to be the first to be destroyed. That's how it goes.
Everybody has to be the same.
Everybody.
You have to be the same.
Yeah. Even today, that culture didn't change. But I think, the communist regime thrives on this kind of culture.
Yeah.
Because people don't treat each other as equals. Confucianism, basically advocates a classified society. So in that sense, tyranny is the most normal in China. Despotism is acceptable, not just acceptable, but preferable by the Chinese.
And Kai, there is an issue and a problem in terms of a lot of people in that society and culture not asking questions themselves, not stimulating ideas on their own. That's frowned upon.
Yeah, that's a given. That's not just when the communist regime took over.
Yeah.
But from the first day the Chinese dynasty first established, it's already being established on the premise that individuals must be destroyed. And in the society, you have only members of groups, your father, mother, things like that, and uncle. And in China, in Chinese language, that's all classified.
Okay, just very quickly, give me an example of a self-denunciation session.
Denunciation, for example, I told the story in my book, 1 in a Billion. One time we had this steamed potatoes.
Okay.
We were eating.
Okay.
We're eating, then, I was young. I never liked the potato skin because, they didn't clean it up. There's some dirt on it. So I peeled the potato skin. Then, wow, there's political director. During the Cultural Revolution, it's everywhere.
And nobody else did that.
They came. Yeah, there's a friend of mine. Yeah. We both of us were denunciated, and then we have to make self-confession to say, oh, this is because our family background's bad. And
it's bad that you did something on your own and made your own decision, because this isn't usually done. The potato's not peeled.
No, because you always watch what other people do. You don't want to do anything that shows your own preference.
Wow.
That shows your own interest. In China, people don't say something like, I like something, I like you, or I love you. There's no such thing, because in China, you lack the concept of I. That's why I also translated Ayn Rand's anthem into Chinese. So because anthem tells people the most important thing is I. And in English language, I is capitalized. Everywhere you write, if you write in English, you cannot ignore the word I. That shows you language itself carries values. And if you go in Chinese, there's no such thing.
Absolutely. So expand for us a little bit on this, because Kai, I'm very fascinated with how the linguistics of a culture also shape and mold the culture.
Absolutely.
And the freedom of a culture.
Absolutely.
And I have seen some of your writings and some of your discussions where you discuss how the actual Chinese language itself is an obstacle for democracy and individual freedom in China.
Absolutely.
Can you just expand on that a little bit?
There's a book called The Trust by Frank. That tells you the relationship between a country's culture and its economic structure. I remember when I was first, when I first came to America, there's a huge company called Wang Electronics. Remember? Probably you don't remember that, but that company didn't last long, because after the old Wang established the company, after he retires, he gave the power to his son instead of to those who are capable of running the company. So you can see the culture itself is impediment to freedom or to capitalism. So that's why the Chinese they're rather they're interested in Marxism, in dialectics, in dialect rather than individualism.
But Kai, before I move on, just give me one more example of something in the Chinese language, how it works, where it actually it suffocates individual freedom.
So many. There are so many. But I'll give you one example just in translation, because I was translator for a long time, because I realized this problem. Later on, there's a book I read, by William Hannes called The Writing on the Wall. I'll give you one example. In English, you say White House, right? But if you translate that into Chinese, it's entirely different meaning. Because in Chinese, you have to say 白宫. 白宫 means the White Palace. See, but in English, you have this freedom, expression of freedom. White House, this is a house. Someone moved there and lived there for a while, and they're controlled by us. But if you translate into White Palace, there's no other word. You have to translate into a White Palace. Then when the Chinese view American society, they view American society in their own light. You understand? That's how the language itself, ruined a lot of the concepts directly from the West. If you translate that into Chinese, many things change. And a lot of concepts, the premises are corrupted.
And even within all of that is because in the West, a lot of people can own their own houses. And palace has there's an implication of rich rulers.
Exactly.
Right?
They understand rulers, but they do not understand the servant of the people.
Right.
They do not understand that.
Very quickly, Kai, because we're running out of time, tell us a little bit about being on the national basketball team and how you ended up in America.
This is too long a story, but I have to say, I was chosen since Nixon visited China, start the ping pong diplomacy. Recently, there's a book called Ping Pong Diplomacy by Nick Griffin. He interviewed me about this, and then the country after that, Cultural Revolution, all the athletics, sports abolished, nothing. But when the ping pong diplomacy started, Mao and Zhou realized, we can use this to break the isolation. So they start sending, the coaches to the countryside. Well, I was already sent to the countryside, okay, to the countryside and to pick up the talents. And I was chosen. But later on, they found out that I had relatives in Taiwan. They said, we couldn't trust you.
And that's bad.
Then they kicked me out. But then after that, I decided I have to do this. This is what I love to do. I had to do this. Then after 8 years, I returned to the national team. Because they have to choose me. Back then, they had to choose me because I'm the best. So not only I'm the best, I have to be better than the best because your family background. You have so many relatives, they don't trust you. Every time I go abroad, representing China, they have to send someone to stay with me, a party member, a Communist Party member, to stay in the same room with me, everywhere to go. But we don't say that. But I know every time there's a party member sitting, sleeping with me.
This is the history of communism. Kai, I play quite a bit of basketball, and I'm ready to play you anytime one-on-one, but you have to have your hands tied behind your back and blindfolded, okay? Now, Kai, very quickly, tell our audience what you have here.
What I have here is, you can call me the Forrest Gump of China. I've been everywhere. In every major events happened in China. In 1989, I went back by chance to witness Tiananmen Square massacre. And this is the headband the students wear on Tiananmen Square. I pick it up on the street. It's all dirty and everything is still the same thing. says, support hunger strike, demand equal dialogue. This is a headband. But the thing is, the main thing I want people to see is this. This is Chinese currency, the bill of Chinese currency. Most people, when they discuss the economy between China and America, they discuss appreciation, depreciation of this currency. But they ignore this. They ignore the portrait of Mao. Mao is the biggest mass murder in human history. 80 million Chinese died under Mao. And now, every time you accept this currency, you, including Americans, you say, I trade you with this. And you ignore the moral implication in this. In America currency, there's this word that says, in God we trust. This is in devil we fear. And then this implication, I did a protest in 2009, October the 1st, in Nixon Library. Because in Nixon Library, there is a Mao's statue sitting in the exhibition called the World Leaders. Mao is not a world leader, he's a world murder.
There's also a Mao's Kitchen here.
Mao's Kitchen on Melrose as well. I protest that as well. But I went to Reagan Library. There was Mao's portrait as well. But it belongs with Hitler and with Mussolini. But the Nixon Library, it sits among the people like Winston Churchill, Charles de Gaulle. How could that be? I mean, that's called moral confusion, not just moral confusion, it's called moral corruption. That's why, when you have that kind of statue, sitting there in Nixon Library, funded by our taxpayers' money, you are sending a message to say power decides everything.
Kai, we need an entire episode to discuss this, but within, please, 60 seconds, and I know we need 20, is a farewell message. But being from a totalitarian country and talking about Mao, etc., you see a lot of what's happening with Obama in America is replaying and rebuilding this. Just finish with a warning to the American people about what's happening here in the United States.
Well, you can see, and whenever Ronald Reagan went to the Soviet Union, he demands to talk to the people over the government. He demands meet the dissidents first as a precondition to have the visit into country. But nowadays, in Obama's White House, on the Christmas tree, there's a Mao's portrait there. And also, Obama invited the Chinese president for a state banquet in the White House, and they played anti-American song. And that anti-American song is during the Korean War. And there's a movie in China depicting that part of history. But then you can tell, because of this moral confusion, today the world is in chaos because there's no American leadership anymore. So what I want to see is we have to reestablish American leadership in the world. It's not just economic leadership, it's moral leadership.
Thank you very much, Kai. You're a hero, and thank you for your message. We'll see you again soon, Kai Chen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for supporting the Glazov Gang and watching the Glazov Gang, and help us out by subscribing to the YouTube channel on which you're watching this show, and like the Glazov Gang on Facebook. We'll see you again soon. Good night.